All right, let's do this. Hi, everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance, and I go by the name of my man Richard. It's been a while since I didn't record, so if I sound a little bit rusty, please forgive me. Today I have a special guest. His name, I think I'm gonna let you say your name to the people because they might not believe what is your name. So tell everybody, just introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are in about 2 minutes, and we'll get started.
I'm James I. Bond. I think my parents had a sense of humor.
Hmm.
My man Richard here, he's from Montreal. He's in Montreal, and that's where I'm from, although I live in Southern California now because it's a little warmer here. But no, I'm James I. Bond, and I wrote a book called Brain Glue, and that seems to be very exciting for so many people. I'm actually considered one of America's leading behavioral management specialists, and so it's fun.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about the book.
Sure. Um, in Montreal, I started an advertising agency. I worked my way up, and then I started an advertising agency, and I won some of the world's biggest companies. You know, Kraft Foods, Timex watches, Avon, Seagram's. Their world headquarters is in Montreal, and I had the opportunity to win the anti-drug campaign in America with powerful, logical reasons why you should not do drugs, and I lost. And when I saw what I lost to, I realized this is something I don't know that's much more powerful than what I know how to do. I'm logical, a logical person. But it was the ad that had a guy holding an egg saying, "This is your brain," and crack the shell and drop the egg into a sizzling frying pan and points down to the sizzling frying pan with the egg in it. "This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?" And I realized this is emotional selling. And, I hated selling when I was young. I love it now, but I went to a workshop with Zig Ziglar early on, the motivational speaker, and he said, selling is nothing more than a transference of passion. If you're passionate about something, then I don't have to teach you how to sell. I can give you some tools, but I don't have to teach you how to sell because you're passionate. You have to transfer that passion to your prospects or to whoever you're talking to. If you're talking to somebody and trying to sell them an idea, okay, like, wow, this is really great. And so it scared me, but I recognized that, I'm trying to sell people logically. In school, they say, let's teach you how to have a debate and be logical. Well, logic is not what works as much as emotional transference. And I learned that with "This is your brain on drugs." That wasn't a brain, I was an egg. And so about 10 or 12 years after that, I moved to Southern California and I met John Gray. And John Gray was telling me, he's an author, and he was telling me about this incredible book he wrote, Men, Women, and Relationships. And people would read the book and say, "My gosh, this changes my life. This is so incredible, this book." And yet very few people bought his book. So he got this crazy idea. What if I change the title to "Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus"? And then, put some references to that throughout the book, but still keep the same book. Almost overnight, he was telling me 500,000 books got sold. I mean, then 1 million, then 2 million. A friend of mine, Steve Harrison, who helped him with marketing, in my book, I say he sold 10 million copies, and he says, "No, you're wrong." I said, "I did my research." He said, "No, we're over 50 million books sold now. 50 million. And it's all because he changed the title. And he used a metaphor, men are from Mars, because men are not really from Mars. I know some of the women out there think we're from a different planet, okay? But no, it made me, when I got home, I created something called a passion box when I first started realizing there's this emotional selling thing. So I put a box next to my computer, and every time I saw an ad or heard something that was emotional selling, even a quote, I would put it in the box in the hopes that eventually I would learn how I'd be able to figure out how to do emotional selling. After John Gray told me about Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, when I got home, I dumped the passion box on my bed and I discovered there are 14 brain triggers at the heart of emotional selling. And it was like, wow. And I started applying this. I was a coach or a consultant to different companies, and I would start applying this to companies and their sales would explode. I had these 3 guys who had a construction company who after 10 years had $2 million of sales. Hey, that's not bad. $2 million, right? Ha ha ha. In 1 year, I took them from 2 to 10 million. And these guys they couldn't believe how much money they were making. Suddenly they're rich. And then they went to 32 million 2 years later, all because of applying this. One of the things that's important for me to understand that when I started understanding this is that, I focus on selling. I come from advertising and all that stuff. So I show people how to make a lot of money in business. And I'll give you some examples. But this applies beyond that. Maybe you have something important that you want to share with somebody, okay, an idea. And then we share it sometimes. People go, okay, it's not interesting or whatever else. But we have famous, there are famous quotes that use brain glue kind of type tools, okay? I'm old enough to remember President John F. Kennedy in America saying, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That's something called chiasmus, which is kind of a flip, okay? Don't do this, do that, okay? Malcolm X, civil rights activist Malcolm X in America said, he could have said, you have no idea how hard it is in many cases being a black person in America. And we'd hear that, we've heard that. Okay. No, he said that in a way that sticks to the brain. He said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock landed on us. And whoa, okay. And that's really powerful. He also said something that a lot of people don't realize he's the one that coined this phrase. He said, when you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. And these are really powerful. It's a powerful way, I was thinking, I have this friend he doesn't have an open mind. And I'm trying to tell him, you need to have more of an open mind. So I used brain glue tools and I came up with a way to explain it to him. Because if I said to him, you need to have an open mind because I tried this, and he's like, leave me alone, But so what I said, I was thinking about this and I said, so what else works when it's open? An umbrella, a parachute, a computer, okay? So let me start with a parachute. And I realized, let me tie this together with a parachute. And I said, your brain is like a parachute. It works better when it's open. And he went, okay, interesting, okay? And it resonated more with him. It was really, really powerful. So how about this in business, okay? There's a mom and son with no business experience, and they went from 0 to $100 million in less than 2 years. Okay, so how did they do that? Using a brain glue kind of tool, okay? What they did was they were watching Shark Tank on television, and they loved this idea of like, wow, it creates a product who maybe doesn't have a business experience, but they create a product, and then they get on Shark Tank, and then they get an investor and suddenly become famous and rich. So they were thinking like, wow, we need to come up with a product that would really be good, we can get on Shark Tank with also. So the mom has trouble going to the bathroom. I don't want to get into too much what it is, but she has trouble going to the bathroom, okay? I guess she's constipated or something. And so the doctor told her that if you raise your feet about 6 inches off the floor when you're in the bathroom, it changes the shape of your body, and it's actually easier to go to the bathroom. So they went, okay, that's fun. I mean, not that's fun, that helps. And then they thought, well, maybe that's a good product that we can get on Shark Tank with. It's a good product that maybe we can launch. We can find a manufacturer to manufacture them for us. But then she said, we need a name for this product. And so she was thinking of it, and she said, well, it's toilet stool. But we don't want to call it toilet stool. That doesn't sound like very exciting, okay? My wife says they could have called it the stool, but I don't think that's the best name for it, okay? The poopy pooper. Pooper scooper, not for kids, for adults. But no, they're thinking about it, and they said, well, what's another word for toilet? Because it's the toilet stool. So another word for toilet is potty. So potty, okay, that's a nice way to say it. And we're kind of squatting. Squatty potty. Let's call it the squatty potty. Uses rhyme. They started selling it online first before they got onto Shark Tank, and sales exploded. They couldn't believe how much it was selling like crazy. They actually had so much money, they could have spent some money on more advertising and things, But Squatty Potty exploded like crazy. And by the time they got on Shark Tank, the investors were standing in line to invest with them because they realized this is a cool product and it's a cool name, because my question is, and they went from 0 to with no business experience to $100 million in less than 2 years. mean, they couldn't believe how much money was coming in. It was scared, and I learned this when I started applying and making a lot of money. I mean, I made more money than I ever made doing coaching when I learned brain glue, is that after you pass like $1 million, you start thinking like, did I break the law? I mean, this is weird. Is somebody going to find out I made over $1 million? This is scary. And today it's like, no, keep it coming in, guys, and gals. But I mean, but it's just, it's amazing how things change. So here's an example of, Richard Branson, the billionaire.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do Richard Branson, Madonna, and olive oil have in common? The name Virgin. Virgin olive oil, like a virgin, touched for the very first time. That song helped propel her, Madonna, into massive superstardom. And Richard Branson dropped out of high school. He didn't have much money, so he had to borrow money from his dad. Okay, so he was a poor kid. People think, well, he's a billionaire. Well, he started out with no money, okay, or almost no money. He borrowed some money from his dad, and he started a magazine for musicians. Eventually, he decided he wanted to create a record company, so he could produce records for famous musicians. And he thought, well, let me come up with a really good name that people would go like, what? And so he came up with Virgin Records, and he got people like the Rolling Stones to become his clients. And he realized, well, Virgin is a powerful tool that I can use this. He eventually had Virgin Hotels. Today he has Virgin Airlines, Virgin Galactic. I mean, he's got like all these things. He created the trademarks so nobody else could get it. Virgin this, Virgin that. And it's just like, wow, using a brain trigger, using a word that gets your attention really makes you able to sell more or to get attention. I remember I was watching, I have a TV next to my computer where I'm working. And then one day I had the TV on, and they had a famous baseball player. I forget what his name is. He was talking about something. He was talking about Blue Emu. It's anti-arthritis cream, especially, for your joints and stuff. As you get older, it might hurt you. And he says this, and I'm not even listening. He goes, Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. What did he just say? You won't stink? And from that point forward, I was watching the commercial to hear what he's talking about. Because it won't stink. What if I tell you, Richard, hey, I'm going to show you this and you won't stink? You go, whoa. I mean, you smell beautiful. But I'm just saying, it's like there's trigger words that wake up. I realized that wake up the brain. I realized, so as I'm discovering trigger words, which is one of 14 brain triggers that Brain Glue has, I started realizing some of the people that use it. So I would think dirty. Would you use, if you were creating a TV show or a movie, or if you're writing a book, or if you're having a podcast, would you call it the dirty podcast? Well, think of some of the. No, okay. I don't
know.
I know exactly, but think of some of the famous movies: Dirty Dancing. Okay, Dirty Harry. Okay, there was a movie, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I'm old enough to remember the Dirty Dozen. It's like, whoa, it really grabs your attention with the trigger word. So as I'm doing research on that, I realized I wanted on the word dirty, because I went, oh, dirty. I never thought of using the word dirty. I wanted major newspapers and magazines to do reviews on my book, Brain Glue. And so I identified 21 different writers who are writers for famous major magazines. And I sent them an email. When you send them an email, lots of people send emails saying, hey, can you write about my book or my product or whatever else? But I used the word dirty, and I said in the headline, the dirty truth about an article you wrote. Within 24 hours, 2 of the writers immediately contacted me and said, okay, yeah, I'm curious. You got to send me a copy of your book. Dirty. I woke up their brain. The dirty truth about the podcast you're on. It's like, what? I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing when you look at some of the trigger words. I mean, so this guy, Carey Smith, he started a small manufacturing company, and he started making some pretty good money. He had a friend who had this company, and he was struggling with it, that makes fans, really, really big fans, okay, that they use them in farms, in a barn. In a barn, you're not going to put an air conditioner for your horses or your cows, you can have a fan in there at least to sort of circulate the air. And he made really big fans. And so Cary Smith bought his friend's company, and he was thinking, how can I grow the company? And one day he was having fun with a friend, and he came up with the idea because his friend said, are they really big? He said, no, they're big ass fans. Big ass fans? Whoa. Yeah, these are big. And he started thinking, what if I change the name of the company to Big Ass Fans? Let's see what happens, okay? And so he changed the name of the company to Big Ass Fans. He has a great logo. He has a donkey with its butt facing you, so an ass's ass, and his face is off in the distance, and he's just turning, looking at you, and it says Big Ass Fans. He used that as a logo. Sales exploded. People started buying it like crazy for warehouses and for like all these other purposes. Like he has really big fans. And he said he started becoming so successful that he started offering other products, but then he realized these other products are distracting me from the fans. So he stopped, and he went back to just focusing on fans and having lots of different types of big ass fans. After 15 years, people sometimes after maybe 10, 15 years, you want to sell your company and retire. He was a young guy. But he decided after 15 years to sell his company. He sold it for $500 million. Okay. All because of the name? Yeah, all because of the name. I mean, it's amazing when you think of, when you think of how people are, the name of their product or business really makes a difference. Like one of the tools I have is alliteration, the repetition of sound. And so I started realizing you have companies like Coca-Cola, Best Buy, PayPal, Lululemon, TikTok, it's repeating the sound. Tony the Tiger. I grew up with Tony the Tiger with, so it's just when I started realizing this. So there's this guy, Bob Parsons, and he started a company called Jomax Technologies. Okay. And he basically helped people get URLs for their website, whatever your website is, and then have some website services. And people loved his company, but very few people were buying. And so he started thinking, what if we come up with a new name? So he had some employees working with him. He said, like, guys, let's come up with a new name. And they came up with the name Big Daddy. They thought that would be fun. Let's call it Big Daddy. But they said, oh, they checked and it was taken. So he said, let's call it GoDaddy. Okay. GoDaddy has become a blockbuster of success. GoDaddy, daddy, it's for like famous people like Marilyn Monroe and Chevy Chase and all. You don't realize like how many people use alliteration to make the sound stick to the brain like glue. I mean, it's amazing, I mean, when I start to understand these things, it just really blew my mind. I mean, there's a civil rights activist from the early days, really early days of civil rights, Frederick Douglass, and he said something that was really profound. But it's amazing how he was, he's gone for over, he passed away over 100 years ago, and yet people still refer to it in quotes and everything else. I mean, it sticks longer than he stayed alive. Okay, it's a really fabulous quote. He says, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. That's chiasmus. It's a flip, He has one and the other. And it's just, it's powerful. I mean, doesn't that stick to the brain? Doesn't that sound amazing?
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
No, it's okay. You can continue. No,
Okay.
I was just agreeing with you. It
Oh,
was
okay.
yeah.
But so as I discovered this, as I learned this, I started to, so I had this mom who came up to me and said, so you're an expert in brain glue. Can you help me with my 14-year-old son? And I'm like, okay. I don't know what she's going to throw at me. By the way, John Gray, who did Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, he said, don't tell people you're an expert. He says, I'm supposed to be an expert in relationships, man-woman relationships, because of my book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I go home and my wife proves me wrong. So tell people you're a specialist. Don't tell them you're an expert. So I'm a specialist. Anyway, so she says, you're an expert in brain glue. I said, no, I'm a specialist. But she said, can you help me with my 14-year-old son? I said, well, I'll try. And she said, he says, Mommy, why do we have to follow so many rules in life? Okay. So first I said, let's come up with a rhyme. What rhymes with rules? How about fools? Only fools don't follow rules. Okay, so that could work. But let's add a metaphor too. Like let's come up with a metaphor to see if that works. And so I was thinking about it with her, and I came up with something. Then I sat down with her and her son, and I said, "So you were asking your mom why we have to follow so many rules in life, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, think about it. If you're thirsty, you could always drink out of the toilet, but why would you want to? Remember, only fools don't follow rules." And he looks up at me and he goes, "That makes sense." First, getting a 14-year-old to say that anything makes sense, that's a miracle. So I escaped before he asked me anything else. Please don't ask anything else. But does it make sense, or did I just trigger the emotion centers of the brain? I mean, so here are two political phrases, okay? The first one is, you can't hug a child with nuclear arms, okay? It's something called anchoring, where you take two pieces and you put them together, okay? You can't hug a child, so you feel emotional. You can't hug a child with nuclear arms. Ugh, you're putting two things together. There's this, in America, there's the gun control issue, and I'm not taking it pro or con guns. I'm not, but I like, a comedian came up with this line, and he said, the right to bear arms is almost as crazy as the right to arm bears. Like, okay. But it resonates, sticks to the brain. President Ronald Reagan, he became president right after the Vietnam War, and people hated war. They lobbied against it. They fought against the Vietnam War and just the idea of war in general. Well, his military people said, we would like to create new rockets that could shoot down, or spaceships that could shoot down rockets in case somebody started firing a rocket at us, like China or any other country. And sorry, I want to remember the name. It's thank you, a missile defense system. And so I have my wife behind me, so she just told me, "Thank you, Pam." That helps so much. But so it was the missile defense system. And if he called it the missile defense system, a lot of people would be protesting. We don't need more war things and everything else. But back then, the movie Star Wars was really successful. So he decided, let's anchor the two things. Let's put these two things together. Let's call it the Star Wars missile defense system. He said, so we're in America, we're going to launch the Star Wars missile defense system. And suddenly he had all these fans, Star Wars missile defense system. Yeah, cool. Yeah, hey, you can have laser beams and stuff flying. That'll be awesome, And so just by anchoring, by putting those two things together, it made it much easier for him to get people to say yes or to be pro what it is he was offering. So yeah, this works like with a lot of phrases, even though it works in business. So I talk a lot about people who are trying to make money with their, their product or service or whatever they're offering. But it also it works in discussion too when you're trying to persuade people. But here's I was working with a bunch of company trying to do a turnaround where they were in trouble and they were running into trouble and everyone was afraid they're going to lose their job. And so I came up with a metaphor. I'll explain metaphors so people can understand how to apply metaphors, okay? But let me just tell you this example first. I said, I know you guys are all under a lot of pressure, but remember this, pressure creates diamonds. And then I said, I'm going to help you guys go from stress to success. So pressure creates diamonds. So you guys are under pressure. That's a metaphor. It's, they're not really going to create diamonds because they're going to be under pressure. But what am I trying to tell them? I'm trying to tell them, because you're under pressure, you'll end up being more creative and invent something or develop something that's going to really even be better than you might have done if you weren't under pressure, And then stress for success. I'm going to help you go from stress to success. Stress from success is alliteration, repetition of sound. So metaphors are interesting because I realized with men are from Mars, women are from Venus, that's a metaphor. Men are not really from a different planet, okay? That's the first thing. We are not. So, but it's a metaphor. It's like, it's just like, and if you come up with the term, it's just like, and to say something, but be as creative as possible, be as crazy as possible, then you could have a lot of fun. This TV show Shark Tank, it's not really a tank full of sharks. You're not looking at underwater sharks. You're looking at investors. If they called it the investors club, it wouldn't be as resonant. It wouldn't stay with the people as much as Shark Tank. A Rocky Road ice cream. I remember seeing on the Discovery Channel the history of Rocky Road ice cream and Dreyer's ice cream, and it was really fascinating. So Rocky Road is when you open up Rocky Road ice cream, guess what? There's rocks inside it. No, there's not. Okay. It's chocolate ice cream with nuts and marshmallows, but it's bumpy like a rocky road. So it was invented during the Great Depression, by the way. And everybody was struggling. And back then they had chocolate ice cream, strawberry, and vanilla. Those are the only ice creams. And this was the first ice cream that they mixed things with it. So it was chocolate ice cream with nuts and marshmallows. So they call it Rocky Road, which is kind of bumpy like a rocky road. It also uses alliteration, a repetition of sound. Rocky Road. That's the second brain glue tool. The third brain glue tool they used was humor. Rocky Road ice cream was developed during the Great Depression. And during the Great Depression, the depression was called Rocky Road. We're all on a rocky road. So their concept was, we're all on a rocky road anyway. We might as well eat Rocky Road ice cream. People would laugh, but they bought the product. Laughers are buyers. I have two friends who are attorneys, among the top 100 attorneys in America. One of them is in the top 10 attorneys in America. And I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to give away the secret, but I will explain something. Humor is a powerful tool, okay? He uses humor in a courtroom. He says, if I can get the judge to laugh and the jury to laugh, I have a much better chance of winning the case. And he's one of the top 10 attorneys in America. And he wins cases because people would often give him, transfer a case over to him because they know there's no way they could win it. He doesn't win every case, but he wins a lot of cases that other people can't win. And in a large part, it's because he makes the judge laugh or the jury laugh. I mean, if somebody makes you laugh, tells you a joke, you become warmer towards them. It's subconscious, but it's there. You become warmer to them. And I ran a behavioral management firm, one of America's leading behavioral management firms, for 13 years. We had famous people. We worked with Warren Buffett's team and with other famous people in huge companies. And one of the things I trained my facilitators to do is to start with a joke. If you can start with a joke, it opens people's mind to become more receptive to what you're saying. Here, I'll give you a joke. I was telling these 3 women who were religious. And so I needed a religious joke. So I said, so a little girl comes up to her mommy and says, Mommy, Daddy says we came from apes, but you say we came from Adam and Eve. Honey, Daddy's talking about his family. I'm talking about my family. Okay. I would tell them that and they would start laughing. And then suddenly they were like, hey, what else are you going to tell us? They're ready for it. And then when you understand that, you understand how powerful it is, in a courtroom. I mean, if you're telling a judge a joke and he starts laughing at you, subconsciously, he's like, he might not, vote for you or whatever else, but there's a good chance, you have a better chance that he will, especially if you're equal, the two attorneys. And so as I started understanding these tools, so here's humor and metaphor. It's just like, okay. So this guy Paul Tran creates an electric razor for man's private areas. Okay. I don't want to get too much into that. Now, I never bought it, but I want to tell you the product and then sort of tell you why it works so well. So he decided to come up with the name and he decided to call it the lawnmower. Okay. It's the lawnmower. Okay. He ended up changing the name of his company to Manscaped. We're going to landscape a man with a lawnmower. So if I bought one, let me start here. If I bought one, if I bought a lawnmower, I would not share it with my friends. Okay. Let's start there. Okay. But I could see myself calling a friend and saying, hey, guess what I just bought? What'd you buy? I bought the lawnmower. What, you have to mow your lawn? No, it's for shaving men's private areas. I can hear him laughing and saying, hey, Mary, his wife or his girlfriend, guess what James just bought? What, a lawnmower? Wait, he needs to mow his lawn? No, it's to mow his private areas. He's generated hundreds of millions of dollars. His company has exploded in sales. In fact, big companies wanted to buy him out. And he says, no, I'm making so much money, forget it. All because he has the lawnmower. I remember in a store, I think it was Bed Bath & Beyond or something like that. It had the words the lawnmower with an arrow pointing to one of his shavers. So what do you do when you're walking by the lawnmower and you start reading? Well, what's this all about? Okay. I mean, it's just, metaphors are really powerful. I have a metaphor for mine. Okay. And that's, brain glue is like a naked man running through your backyard. You can't take your eyes off it. That's what brain glue does. It opens up your awareness so you see something you might not have seen. So here's some tools I use for brain glue. Rhyme is one of them. So it helps with your pitch. So what are words that rhyme with pitch? Okay. Switch your pitch if you want to get rich. There we go. Okay. There's my one rhyme. Okay. But I wanted to get it even more sophisticated. So I said it builds desire in your buyer. Oh, desire buyer. Okay. So brain glue is so powerful. It helps you build desire, light the fire of desire in your buyer. Brain glue gets you to light the fire of desire in your buyer. See, so rhyme works, and it sticks to the brain. I mean, I remember when I was young. So let me ask you a question, okay? Jack and Jill went up the
I forgot.
hill.
I remember I heard that one, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I remember it, and it was like maybe 50 years ago. I'm old, so you're a young guy. Enjoy life, okay? I'm old. But I mean, Jack and Jill went up the hill. The last time I heard that was maybe 50, 55 years ago, maybe 60 years ago, based on how old I am. And yet I remember it like it was yesterday because it's rhyme. It sticks to the brain like glue. In the courtroom, O.J. Simpson, the celebrity athlete O.J. Simpson was up for a murder trial. And Johnny Cochran, his attorney, said, if the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit right at the end. Okay. And because of that, I remember there were two jurors after the trial, and they were asking two of the jurors. The journalist was asking the two people in the jury, with all that evidence against OJ, how come you found him not guilty? And one of them said, well, the other one nodded her head in agreement. Well, we knew if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. The glove didn't fit. We had to acquit. Okay. I mean, it's really powerful. If I was the other attorney, I would have said, you have to love how he faked the glove. Okay. I mean, whatever, but I'm just saying, but rhyme works. These are tools that stick to the brain like glue. And when you start to understand it, two things happen. The first thing is it becomes easier to stand out from the crowd. So people go like, oh, that's interesting, get attention. And the second thing is that it sticks to the brain in the memory areas, in the emotional areas, and that triggers buying decisions are in the emotional parts of the brain as well. In marketing, we often say you want someone to know, like, and trust you. Well, that's emotion, okay? If there's somebody you can't stand, if somebody you hate, and he's trying to sell you something, I don't care how great the product is, you're probably not going to buy it. Like, this guy's a jerk. I'm not going to buy from him, okay? That's emotion. If you like the person, like I was talking about the attorneys and stuff, I had this guy that was telling me, your brain glue book is amazing. I used it to try to pick up this girl that I love, and she would never go out with me. I started using some of the tools, and now she's going on my second date. It's like, okay, it's not really meant for that. He said, but no, I started telling her jokes, and I started telling her other things. And then she said, oh, you're really fun. Let's go on a date. I mean, she actually asked me to go on a date. It's like, okay.
I'd like to go on, you were mentioned, like, I think there was 14 brain glue
Tools.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I would like to do a part 2 with that because the time is up. But because you shared a lot of nuggets and knowledge to my audience. We'll have to schedule a part 2, and because I'd like to go on the 14 tools, if that's okay with you.
Sure, absolutely, it'll be fun.
Yeah, maybe we could do that next week, hopefully.
Okay.
Depending on your schedule. Anyways, we'll talk about it after we're done. But for sure, I'm gonna schedule another one with you next week, if you're okay.
Absolutely. Well, you use brain glue, my man Richard. My man, alliteration.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's great.
Plus, I use the way it's spelled. It's MEN instead of MAN. So
okay, that's cool.
People always ask me. I always say because it looks better MEN than MAN. So
okay, yeah, absolutely. I have this guy whose name is David Baer, Baer, and he has an advertising company. He actually coaches people in advertising. And I said, "Oh, I've got the perfect name for you. what? Bare Naked Advertising. His partner loves that name, but he's like, I don't know if I want to be bare naked advertising. So yeah, people will love it, So yeah, it's lots of fun.
All
My
right.
man Richard.
No problem. So thanks, James, for being here. It was nice meeting you and talking to you. I like your energy. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen to the podcast. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. My name is Richard Lessperance, and I go by the name of my man Richard. And I was with James I. Bond. So we'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Bye. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Richard.
No problem.